Podcasting didn't just help this podcaster grow her business, but it actually helped her rebuild her entire life. In this episode, I'm talking to Wendy Valentine, who, after navigating divorce, chronic illness, financial hardship, and becoming an empty nester all at once, Wendy found herself asking so many questions women in midlife face. Now what? What started as a desire to share her story soon became the Midlife Makeover Show, a podcast that has grown into a global program, a thriving business, and even led to a traditional book deal. And if you remember the last episode with Alex Alexander, same thing happened to her with her book deal. I'm telling you, podcasts really can create a lot for your business. In this episode, we're talking all about building a podcast that grows alongside you. We dive into why she chose not to niche down, despite all the conventional advice, how the podcast became the foundation of her business, and why treating your show as a whole ecosystem, not just content, can change the opportunities that you get. So if you're a podcaster or dreaming of starting one, this is the episode for you to listen to. It is packed with such great advice. Welcome to the Podcast Café, where we're serving up everything you need to know about podcasting, from tips, stories, and strategies for podcasters from podcasters. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst, the founder of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast agency helping business owners, creatives, and thought leaders launch and grow their shows. Whether you're just starting out or want to take your podcast to the next level, this is the place for you. Each week, we'll dive into practical tips, actionable strategies, and of course, stories from other podcasters so that you can build up a podcast that you love and that works for your business. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe. Hey, before we get started, are you tired of Googling, how do I grow my podcast? Or asking ChatGPT, what tool do I use for this? How do I edit this? Or how do I get more listeners? I've helped launch and grow over 300 podcasts, and here's what I know. You don't have to figure this all out alone. The Podcast Cafe community is a curated group of podcasters, just podcasters, where I bring in real experts to teach the stuff that actually grows a show, like the exact episode types that you need, or how to actually rank in the charts, and questions that everyone has, like, how do I monetize? Plus, you get access to a room of people who just get it. And not just get it, but have done it before. This room is going to be all different types of podcasters at all different levels, and I can't wait to see you in there. It's just $47 a month, and since it's curated, you'll need to apply. I review them in order, so the sooner you apply, the sooner you're in. Link is in the show notes, and I'll see you inside. And now let's get to the episode. Hey, Wendy, welcome into the Podcast Cafe. I'm so excited to be talking with you today.
Me too. And I'm excited to talk about podcasting because I love it. I love it. I love it. It is the way to go with everything, I think.
I agree. And I talk about it all the time being in the podcast world, but I find people really love talking about their own podcast because they don't get a chance to talk about it as much.
I know. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, I love it. I discovered podcasting actually back in 2020, even though I know podcasting was around. But as far as a host, I did not realize you could just literally start your own show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to a podcast episode with Kathy Heller and Stephanie Gass. She was interviewing Stephanie Gass. And she was talking about kind of discovering what you want to talk about, what your show would be about. And I was like, what? You can just start your own show. I was like, get out. And ever since then, my whole life changed.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it was the greatest decision I ever made in starting my own podcast. It's such a wonderful way to get your message out there, to share your knowledge, your wisdom, to make a difference in the world. Literally, as you know, in the world. That there's people that are listening to this podcast, to my podcast, that are in Europe, they're in Asia. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That there's people listening all over the world that get to hear what you have to say.
No, exactly. And you have 329 episodes at the time of recording. I just checked. So that is so many, and that's so many people that you can impact, and I love that. So, before we get too far into this, I have to ask you the first question I ask all of my guests, which
Okay.
is, since we're in the podcast cafe, what is your go-to coffee order?
My go-to coffee order, all right, if I'm in the United States at a Starbucks, it would be a flat white.
Mm,
But if it's here in Portugal, it would just be a classic cappuccino.
yum. Okay, I love that. We have to get that out of the way before we can talk all about podcasting, right?
Yes, the coffee has changed for me over the years, but now it's like I don't mind that heavier espresso taste. I don't mind that.
Yeah, there is something about being in Europe that makes it taste different too. So,
So good. I
yeah.
know.
So, we're here to talk about your podcast, the Midlife Makeover Show. And I'm
Yes.
really excited to talk to you all about this because you use it as a business tool. And you mentioned that you're doing some big shifts in your podcast coming up soon. But I have to know, I talk to people all the time who want to start a podcast for women in midlife, and there's so many, right? And I just spoke at University of Washington's podcasting class, and there was someone in there who wanted to start a midlife podcast. And I was mentioning to her, the more niche, the better, figuring out who you're talking to, because women in midlife, that's very general, right?
Vague.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how do you do this? How do you talk to the midlife makeover in your own way that stands out?
That's such a great question. So, yes, I know there's riches in the niches, right?
Mhm.
And even when I first started my podcast, I hired Stephanie Gass for consulting, and because I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. I was like, all right, I want to start my own show, but what am I going to talk about? And during this unstuck session that we had over the phone, she was like, well, what are you passionate about? Tell me a little bit more about you. And so I told Stephanie that my whole breakdown to breakthrough story, which is, I'll give it to you in a nutshell. Late 40s, I hit total midlife, quote unquote, crisis, a midlife meltdown, unemployed, empty nester, divorced. I was going through chronic illness, black mold toxicity, chronic Lyme disease. And then within 6 weeks, my dog died, my cat died, and then my brother died. Needless to say, my life just went to crap. Everything had fallen apart. I was 150 grand in debt. And I was having to start over. At the time, I would have been turning 50 soon. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I realized that this was an opportunity for me to create the business that I wanted for me at that point in my life. And so over the course of 2 years, I completely rebuilt my life, got out of debt, recovered from chronic illness, and behind the scenes, I started building my dream business. And I always wanted to become an author. So I was like, all right, I want to become a writer. But I also knew too the importance of building a platform, that you can't just write a book, put it on the bookshelf and be like, okay, everyone, why isn't anyone buying my book? You have to get your message out there. And I knew that podcasting was a great way to get my message out there, to build that platform, right? And I totally believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I would not have gotten my book deal if I did not have my podcast. Guaranteed. Because publishers now don't look so much at like, all right, is she a good writer? Is the book a good idea? They look at how many followers do you have? Do you have a podcast? How many subscribers do you have? All of that. So to answer your question, by the time I got to Stephanie, we had this conversation and she hears my story and she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, you completely made over your life. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, and you're turning 50. She said, you are perfect for the midlife women out there that are in the same boat as you. They might have gone through divorce or they're empty nesters or going through menopause, all the midlife things. And then I asked the question, I was like, can I do that? Can I talk about all the things? And she said, now, here's the thing. And she too is like, there's riches in the niches, right? But for me, this is important to whoever is listening. You have to trust your gut. You have to do what is best for you. I would get bored out of my mind as a podcast host if I had to talk about menopause every day. I would be like, oh my God, yes, hot flashes, we get it. Like, for me, I love waking up in the mornings. I look at my calendar. I'm like, ooh, today I get to talk about divorce. Tomorrow I get to talk about empty nest. The next day I get to talk about starting in a business in midlife, right? All the different things. For me, that's exciting for me. And I love the fact that for my listeners and viewers, that they're able to scroll through. Maybe there's something that doesn't apply to them. Maybe they're like, well, I'm not going through a divorce. Why would I listen to that episode? Oh, but wait, she's talking about menopause. I'm going through menopause. I want to listen to that one. So trust your gut. Don't niche down if you don't feel like you want to niche down. And you can always change it. You're not stuck with it. You can always revamp it. You can always start off broad, then niche down later if you want to. But trust your gut.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good advice. I mean, with this podcast, I interview podcasters, but I interview all different types of podcasters. So it keeps me very entertained. Personally, I'm mostly in the business space. I'm mostly helping like businesses start podcasts or brands. But if I only talked about that would not bring me joy. So I interview a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I mean, to be clear, if there's someone out there and they're like, I love talking about whatever, painting or something like that, or making baskets or whatever, then talk about that every single podcast episode. You do you.
Yeah. There's no rules to this.
Yeah. And I was listening to this audiobook the other day. It was about TED Talks, but he was talking about how important passion is and that you need to be passionate about what you do. Otherwise, you'll get burnt out.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be excited. Your guests are not going to be excited. Your listeners are not going to be excited. So talk about the things that you're passionate about, even if it's a lot of things.
Exactly. I love that. So you mentioned there's a shift coming in your podcast. I'm like on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to hear.
I was like, so I started my podcast on 2/22/22 at 2:22 p.m.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Amazing.
Inside my RV, like I was telling you before, I took off in an RV across the country and I was like, I'm starting my own show and I'm going to become a writer. Yeah. So I did it. And I've loved it. I've had so many amazing guests. I have learned so much from my listeners, from subscribers to everything. And on social media, I see all the clips and everything, what everyone's doing, and it's all wonderful. And I love that we are able just to go to our phones and learn so much about all sorts of different topics, right? There's solutions to problems now, which is amazing. And I think I was telling you before we hit record, I don't know if I'm bored or if it's the podcast world that needs a little bit of a change up. And you might know this already, but Apple Podcasts and Spotify now allow videos.
Yep.
As of like, I think maybe a month or so ago.
Yeah, really recently for Apple. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's probably a little bit of competition there with YouTube, whatever. Competition can be a great thing. And I'm sure we've all seen too that people go live, Instagram, Facebook, Substack, and Instagram is so wonky with their live. I just can't even stand it. And I used to do those, but it was just like, ugh. And they were kind of sloppy and with all the comments flying all over the place, it was too much. So when I was promoting my book, Women Waking Up, and I was on my book tour, I would do a lot of interviews on ABC, NBC, CBS. Many of them were just like this. We're on Zoom or Riverside, right? And as I'm sitting there in the green room behind the scenes on Zoom, I'm literally watching the news and I'm waiting to go live, which is kind of nerve-wracking, but exciting too. And as I'm sitting there, I was getting the idea and I'm looking at all their cool graphics and the titles. And I was like, man, that's nice. And it's just more aesthetically pleasing. It's just visually more exciting. And not everyone likes to listen to podcasts, believe it or not. And some people just like more of the visual. So I thought about it for months. I was like, how can I do this? And to where it's not too much of a headache. So I finally figured it out. So I am switching over from the old-fashioned Zoom interviews, and I'm moving over to StreamYard. And basically, it's going to look like an actual TV show with overlays, and my guest names will be popped up on the screen and their book will be up there. Like, I can show videos, I can do all sorts of cool stuff. And the nice thing is that when I interview someone, I will already have the intro and outro completed.
Mm.
They get played automatically. So as soon as I hit the record button, my intro starts, we move into the interview, and then when I hit the end button, then the outro plays and it's ready to rock. And then I
Amazing.
literally just schedule it to go live. It'll go live on Instagram, Facebook, and Substack. And then it'll still go onto Apple and Spotify.
Yeah.
And you can listen to it, you can watch it, whatever. But also that helps with, as you know, social media, because they tend to favor if you do go live, you're engaging more. So it's a pre-recorded live show. But when it's being shown on Instagram and Facebook and Substack, they think it's live, but it's not really live.
Yeah. Like, it looks live. Right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's a nice change up.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's been 4 years of doing it the old fashioned way. And I would have to say too, for everyone out there listening, it's great to learn from all these different podcasters. There's the elite, right? Where you've got the Mel Robbins and you've got, I can't even think of any other names right now, where they have their own big studios and they have the guests, and that's a lot. I can't do that, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to be stuck to an in-person studio. I like to travel. I like to go in my RV. I like to be here in Portugal. Again, you got to make the business what works for you, right? Learn from other podcasters, but then also think outside the box. What's something else that you can do that's going to make your podcast unique and different from anybody else? And that's why it's like, all right, if there's another podcast that comes out, it's about midlife or it's about menopause or it's like the same thing, right? What makes yours so special that everyone's like, I'd rather watch that one or listen to that one?
I love that. Yeah, I have seen more of a shift towards video focus, and even a lot of my clients that I do production for are leaning towards more of that video. I do like the concept of being able to do it in real time. I always do it post-production, but real time is nice. You can like play those videos. I have a client that interviews a lot of filmmakers, so it'd be cool for them to be able to play a part of the film and then like talk about that after. So
yes, exactly. And here's what's cool too. So I made all of my pre-rolls, mid-rolls, post-rolls into basically they're like commercials.
Yeah. Cool.
So if someone's watching the podcast, those will be seen. And also then you can still hear. So I have the voiceover, but they're getting to see the graphics and logos. And it's attracting more sponsors because sponsors are like, oh, they're actually getting to see my product on the screen live on Instagram and Facebook and Substack.
Yeah. That's actually something that I have on my list that I want to ask you is the sponsors. I noticed on your website you have a place for people to sponsor the show. They get a sponsored episode. Tell me about the whole sponsor ecosystem that you have going on.
Well, I tell you what, though, there's a lot of podcasters, I think, not to say it's not possible, but to get to the level of when you can start having sponsors, it takes a while because you have to be able to show the numbers. And it's not so much even just your downloads as it is your entire platform, right? You've got to be able to have that to support for the sponsor.
Yeah.
And I love using Typeform. So if someone wants to be a guest on the show, they go to midlifemakeoverguest.com. They fill out the form, they get on the wait list. And then to be a sponsor, sponsor.wendyvalentine.com. Try to automate as much as you possibly can with anything with your podcast, right? That makes it so much easier. But As far as sponsors go, it doesn't hurt to ask. And you know what I did in the beginning? I gave free sponsorships.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. See, this is part of menopause. I got menopause brain, but I had a couple of people that I knew that had businesses, and I reached out to them and I said, hey, I would like to offer you a free sponsorship on my podcast. Of course, they're like, oh God, yes, of course you can. And it was great because then I was able to use that pre-roll ad as a sample for others where I'm like, hey, so-and-so sponsored the ad. Here's a sample ad. You can do those too. And you might have to start price-wise, whatever you feel is worth it to you. Like originally for mine, it was just the pre-roll. And then I started adding in, well, I'll do an article for you on my Substack. I threw that in there. And then also even an Instagram reel. I would make that part of the package.
Yeah, like a package.
Right? Yeah. And so now that I'm rolling out the new show, it'll basically be the advertisement that's shown on social media and audibly on iTunes and Spotify, and then also the article. So I'm no longer doing the social media reels just because it gets exhausting. I don't want to always be selling to my followers and listeners.
Yeah, totally. You have courses, you have all these different offers, right? How do you use the podcast as a funnel to your other offers?
Oh, that's the best way. It's like my number one way. Whether you're listening or watching to the show, there's pre-rolls for my courses, for my book, for meditations, anything that I might have going on. Those are my pre-rolls and mid-rolls or post-rolls, right? And I use MeisterTask to keep track of everything. So basically, I'll kind of change it up. And I typically will do a freebie. So in the beginning, I might have a freebie pre-roll. And then my mid-roll might be something that I'm selling. So I try not to always sell. I'll usually like do one freebie. And then of course, if I have a sponsor, the sponsor always goes as the pre-roll. And then I'll usually toss in a freebie as the mid-roll. You know, there's all sorts of different ways that you can sell your own stuff on your own podcast. And why not?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you have guests on your show, which is awesome for the audience sharing too. And so you mentioned you have a wait list. What's like the criteria to be on your show?
Great question. It's you know what? And that was another reason why I changed up the podcast. I wish I could interview more people. I literally have at least 600 on the wait list now.
Wow.
I wish I could get everyone on the show because I feel like everyone deserves to be able to share their message. And I just can't do it all unless I start cloning myself. It'd be great. But one of the reasons I changed the podcast, typically my interviews were about 45 to 60 minutes, if you can only imagine, because I like to talk. Now I'm like, okay, we're going to keep it to 25 minutes, people. That way I can do double the amount of interviews. And with the new way that I'm doing it, I can get them out quicker.
Yeah.
But the criteria, I work with a lot of agencies. So I have my top agencies that are always tossing really, really good guests my way. I tell you what, one thing that really gets me as the host, if someone emails me and immediately like, I just left you a 5-star review for your book or for your podcast, I was like, oh, brownie points. Yeah. I feel like now that I've been on both sides as the host and the guest, and by the way, you're getting a review. I'm leaving a review for both of your podcasts because I know the importance of it, right? For the guests to give back is so important because I feel like there's a lot of guests that are on these shows that are just like, they show up and then they're done and then they're out. You're like, wait, help me promote this, right? Yeah. So I feel like if the guest is really into like, hey, I'm going to do this for you, just can I please be on your show? Cool.
Yeah.
So that, I think that really helps out a lot. Sometimes it's the presentation of their platform, their website.
Sure.
If they've got everything in order, then I'm like, okay, because I have to think about it too. If my listeners go to their website if they're confused at what they're selling and what they're doing, then that's not
fine.
good for me. It's not good representation for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of just get a feel for it. I trust my gut on it.
Yeah. I kind of do the same thing. I get pitched
Yeah.
all the time, but
I'm glad you trusted your gut with me.
of course, your pitch was amazing. So I was like, of course, come on my show. And I also think back to like the funnels for selling your own products, your book. I like what you have going on there because you mentioned one of the reasons you got this book deal was because of your podcast. And
Yes.
now you use the podcast to sell your book in part. That's a tool you're using. You also think about it in a really cool way because you offer all of these bonuses after someone buys your book to like get deeper into your world.
Yep.
When you were thinking about all of these things, did you work with a coach or did this all just come to you?
In my crazy brain.
That's impressive.
Lots of time to think about it. But you know what, though? I did observe other authors, podcasters. I mean, there might be people out there listening that are authors or soon to be authors. I'd watch a lot of these people that are like, oh, well, if you pre-order my book by June 2nd, you'll get $1,000 in bonuses. And then I thought about, I was like, well, why would I turn that off? Why would I take that away? Like, why not give that to them with the book for lifetime? Why would I do that? Right? Because it makes their experience even better. And here's what's really interesting. Like, even on the cover of my book, it has on there host of the Midlife Makeover Show podcast. Like, ding, 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 ding.
Cool. Yeah.
So I've had people, I actually had this lady reach out to me that she found my book on Amazon.
Okay.
Before she even got the book, she started listening to the podcast. So think of it, things like that. If you can get them into your web, as I call it, right? You can pull them in several different ways, whether that's through a freebie or on Instagram or Facebook or through your book or whatever it is. You're just pulling them in several different ways. And the key is more so that you want a subscriber, right? You want that email address. That email address is golden, as we know. I think I read something that it was like worth $15, right? So yes, we all want to like have 1 million followers on Instagram, but do we really?
Right.
Because at any point, Instagram can shut down or something, and there they all go. But your subscribers, your email subscribers are golden. Those are your true super fans, the ones that are going to be buying your products and continuing to listen. That's what I love about Substack. I made the switch to Substack, I think it was last summer, because Substack, you collect subscribers, not followers. That's where I send out my newsletters, and I even post my episodes on there too. So not only are you sending out your episodes to your current subscribers, it's also being seen in the entire Substack world.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So,
that is cool.
yeah.
No. I love the way you think about it and how it all plays together. And like you mentioned, that web, it's not like the podcast is one thing and your courses is a different thing and your book is a different thing. Like it all plays together. And I think that is key to podcasting. So for anyone listening, that's it. That's what you need to do. Like marry it all together.
Yeah. Yeah. And allow it to evolve, right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't try to keep it stuck in this tiny little box. Allow it to evolve. And I can remember this was when I was RVing across the country after I'd started my show. And I had someone reach out, or maybe I reached out to someone to see if they would want to be a guest. And I was like, oh my God. And then she said yes. I was like, oh my gosh, she said yes. She wants to be a guest. And then I was in Vegas in the RV. And I woke up that morning, I was like, oh my God, I have my first interview. I was like, how do you interview someone? Like, I don't know how to interview anybody.
That's funny.
And I remember I watched an episode of Oprah.
Yeah.
And I was watching her and I thought, she's not really interviewing them. She's just chit-chatting.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's my style. I just want to chit-chat. I don't want it to be Q&A. You know what I mean? Like totally. You're great. You're really, really good because you tune in, you know your guest, and then it's like we just had this nice volley back and forth conversation. The point of me telling that story, you don't have to know everything from the get-go. Allow yourself to figure it out along the way, and you will. Will you make mistakes? Actually, I don't believe in mistakes. I believe in retakes. So even if you're like,
Oh, I like
whoopsie,
that.
that one up, but it's like, it's okay. I don't edit any of my episodes. None of them. They're just raw, and some people feel that they need to, totally cool, but I never do. And that saves time, money, and energy. I just let it be real. And I think people are craving that now, especially with AI. I do love AI, but especially with a lot of that, you don't know what's real anymore. And so if someone trips over their tongue and they're like, "Oh," like, okay, totally cool. Let it
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, Wendy, I have some rapid fire questions for you. Before we get into those, is there anything else you want to share about your podcast or what you have going on?
Let's see. Well, yeah, the Midlife Makeover Show, as you guys know, Apple and Spotify, and soon Instagram, Facebook. I guess you said by the time this airs, then I will be showing the podcast live on Instagram, Facebook, and Substack.
Yes.
So come check it out. Let me know what you think. Again, it's like I'm new to this whole video podcasting thing, but I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. I'll put all the links in the show notes so people can go and listen and watch on all those different places. I love it. Okay, so I have some rapid fire questions for you.
I'm
My
ready.
first one is, where do you listen to your podcast? Is it like Apple, Spotify, YouTube? Where is it?
Apple.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
It's a good
an
one.
Apple girl.
Love it. When you're listening to podcasts, do you have any pet peeves?
Yes. Too many long advertisements, and it's usually on the elite podcasts out there, but too many long advertisements. Okay, the pet peeve would be if they don't get to the guest and to the topic right away. Sometimes they're just like going around and around and around in the intro. And I'm like, just let's go. Like, because I feel like most people, if they're listening to a podcast, they might be putting their makeup on or they're going to work. It's like, get to the good stuff quickly.
I agree. Yeah, it's called like burying the lead in journalism. Like, don't bury the lead.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any favorite podcasts that you want to recommend?
Yeah, let's see. Favorite podcast? God, I can't think. Isn't that awful? Stephanie Gass, though, I do like her. I learn a lot from her, different methods, and she seems to kind of stay in tune with a lot of that. So Stephanie Gass podcast is really good.
What is one thing you wish more people knew about podcasting?
It's such a great tool for you as the host, or if you're a guest, to share your voice with the world, share your products, your services, and many times, most of the time, it's free. I mean, I don't charge anything for people to come onto my show, and they get in front of thousands of people by being a guest on the show. I mean, and I think about that, right? Like you were mentioned earlier, how you went to a conference. Let's say, for example, you're coming out with a new book and you're like, I need to get 1,000 people in a room to listen to me talk about my book.
Yeah.
Getting 1,000 people in a room is a lot of work.
Yes.
Right? And a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy. Now, a podcast, if you get on a good podcast and you've got at least 1,000 people listening, boom.
Yeah.
And it's evergreen. So that means it's there most likely forever. So even if someone 5 years from now, they can listen to that episode of you talking about your book. And that was like years ago.
Exactly.
That is so cool.
I love it.
Great.
Well, my last question for you, and the question I end all of my podcast episodes with, is what is the most surprising thing that podcasting has taught you about yourself?
Ooh. First thing that comes to my mind is that I can do anything, that it's really allowed my creativity to flow. I've enjoyed learning more about myself and my authenticity and who I am and how I interact with people. And we didn't talk about this much, but it's such a great way to build connections and relationships. I shared with you, I live on the little island of Madeira, Portugal. And do you know, I have had almost 5 podcast guests come to visit me here on the little island of Madeira, Portugal.
Wow.
Just from chit chat. I know. So, I mean, the connections and the relationships you can build, because you never know, right? And whether it's you meeting the host or if it's the guest or someone that listens to you, it's a great way to get discovered, to get connected. It's such an awesome way to be more connected in the world. I think we're all craving more of that connection.
I agree. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Where can people come and connect with you?
Best way is wendyvalentine.com, and that's the hub for everything. And Instagram and Facebook is at Hello Wendy Valentine.
Perfect. Cool. Well, I'll put those all in the show notes. I've loved this conversation. You had so many good tips to share for like the actual podcast funnels and tips and all of that. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join me in the Podcast Cafe.
Thank you so much, podcasters.
Thank you so much for joining me in the Podcast Cafe. I hope you're leaving with fresh ideas and inspiration to take your podcast to the next level. Remember, podcasting is a journey and you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help you every step of the way. Let's connect. Be sure you follow me on Instagram at Espresso Podcast Production or visit espressopodcastproduction.com for more tips, resources, and behind the scenes insights. I'd love to hear about your podcasting journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling extra generous, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more podcasters just like you find the show. Until next time, grab your coffee, keep creating, and I'll see you back here in the Podcast Cafe.